Very smart countries do that. They look around and they understand there are lots of things to learn. Not so smart countries think they're the best, so they don't have to learn from anyone else. And countries that fall into the bad habit of thinking they're the best end up in trouble. One of those countries in history, probably the biggest mistake in economic history ever, was China, which was so sure that it was the Middle Kingdom and knew everything and didn't need to know anything else about all the rest of the world, closed already well before Japan after the 1430s and stopped looking around the world. And it led a few hundred years later to being far behind the rest of the world in technology. And of course, China suffered very, very badly for 150 years after that. Japan also closed relatively, not completely, after 1600, but quickly opened and learned from the rest of the world in this remarkable experience of the Meiji Restoration after 1868. So I learned those things when we lived here, and I became a great admirer of Japan's way of development and how it taught other countries how to develop. Because if you look at the experience in East Asia, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and then after 1978 in the People's Republic of China, they're all following Japan's model. And till today, I get wonderful delegations, as I got last week, from a very high-level delegation from China. Many people came. They all opened the notebooks. They said, "Professor, tell us whatever you know." So I talked for 2 hours. Then they closed the notebooks. I don't know whether they liked or didn't like what I said, but they listened. And I think it's very smart. My own country doesn't listen to anybody anymore. So we don't go around the world taking notes. Even when I spend a lot of my time in the United States saying they're doing it better in Sweden, they're doing it better in Norway. Nobody wants to hear that. Because I come from a country that knows it's the best of everything. That means that sometime soon it will be very far behind other countries because we stopped watching. It became very arrogant. And when you become very arrogant, you end up in a lot of trouble. And this is really one of the main lessons of history. It happened here, too, also, because after a big success, Japan became arrogant also, that it could impose its success elsewhere. We all fall into the same trap. It ends badly. So the most important lesson, I think, is learn from others and don't become arrogant, because there's always something to learn. There are always areas where you're falling behind others, where there are advantages to be had. And anyway, if there's one lesson of history, it's that cooperation is 1,000 times worth more than trying to dominate, because domination is very short-term, very costly, and very illusory, whereas cooperation can last for a very long time for mutual benefit. So that is really the main lesson of history in any event.